Hello guys, I'm here today to talk you through a game of my own design, and it's called Doomsday. So in this game, we, the players, are all evil geniuses vying to take over the world. Now here we have a deck of inventions, okay, and the way the deck's been made is that we almost have sub-decks. Every 3 cards in a deck are going to be identical. So here we have the minion motivator, and there's 3 of a kind, and that is 1 set. Now the aim of the game is to build 2 parts of the Doomsday machine. We've got lots of other inventions in this game, but we are looking for the Doomsday machine part 1 of 2 and the Doomsday machine part 2 of 2. If you have these working in your base at sort of any point during your turn, then you've built enough. You can hold the world to ransom, and you can take over the world, and you've won the game. You can see there's just a little bit of flavor text there. There's no ability with these 2 cards. The other cards are all different types of invention that let you break the rules in a certain way. So the minion motivator, we haven't covered the rules yet, but you can see it says use to build a second invention from your hand. And we'll talk a little bit about that. So, moving on to setup. This is a really easy game to set up. If you have got your deck sort of put together correctly, what you'll have got is you should have the top 3 being one type of card, the next 3 being another type of card, and so on and so forth. Now this is a bit like a puzzle grid, sort of almost like matching pairs. So we put 3 cards down in sort of order. So we go 3, 3, 3, and the aim of the game is to, or the aim of the setup I suppose, is to get a 4x4 grid of cards in the central play area. So let me just do that. Okay, so at this point we've set up the game. We have the 4x4 grid of inventions. Each one of these piles is a unique invention. So in this pile, I won't show you because it will spoil it, we have 3 cards and they're all identical. So once I've explored this pile, I don't need to come back to it in theory. We also have 2 decks to the side. This is your, so these are randomized as well, but they cannot be the parts of the machine. And we're going to take one of these cards as our starting card. So this is the only version of this we're ever going to see in the game. So I'm going to play this as if we had a 2-player game here. This is player 1, so Chris's card, and then because she wants to mix it up, Nish will take this card as her starting hand. So it's a bit like Love Letter in that you're only really ever going to have 1 card in your hand. Now, there is quite a large element of memory in this game, but it's not just about you lucking out and picking up random cards. The people who've done well through the playtests are the ones who watched the other players and thought about what cards they have explored as well. But anyway, let's zoom out a little bit. Oh, we can't, never mind. Let's sort of go through how a turn will start. So I'm Chris, and I have in my hand a teleporter. Now this is an attack card used to steal a rival player's invention. Now that won't mean a lot to us at present, but we'll see how that will play out later on. So on your turn you have to do 2 things, and you may do 1 thing. The first thing you do is you invent, and to invent you draw from one of these 16 piles. So I'm going to invent from this pile and have a look at the card. And this is a randomizer gun, and each one of these has a bit of text explaining what this does. So the randomizer gun allows us to draw 2 inventions, choose one, and immediately build it. The other one will be discarded. Now that's really powerful to get a second build, but unfortunately all of the other players will know exactly what has come from those 2 piles. So I'm giving away a lot of information if I choose that. So I've invented, these are supposed to be thematically ideas I have in my head. And I'm going to choose one and I will build it in front of me. And this is in your base per se. So I now have 1 invention in my base, the randomizer gun. Now this is, so the two steps you must do is to invent, which is drawing a card, and build, which is laying a card down. You may use cards. So I could use the randomizer gun straight away, but I don't really want to, because I'll be giving away a lot of information to my colleague, and to be completely frank, this is a really useful card later on in the game when there's sort of a bit more information in play and you think you can infer where certain things are. So I'm going to keep that there, and that's just going to stay in my base, and at a later turn I can use that and any other card I have in front of me. So if I have 4 or 5 cards out in front of me, that's going to mean that I can actually end up using all of them at the same time. Okay, we move on to Nisha's turn, and Nisha has picked up as her starting card Mutually Assured Destruction. And this is a defense card, so this is really useful. We don't know yet, but the other player has an attack card. Use this to replicate an attack against on you against the attacker. So if Chris attacks by teleporting away a device, then Nisha can use her MAD to counter-attack and teleport something else away. This one's got a little bit of an interesting thing. If Chris was to use this to attack this card, then actually you wouldn't be able to use it because it would have been teleported before they would have been able to have a go at it. But in the same breath, it would have defended you from losing something perhaps more valuable. Okay, so that's her starting hand. So Nisha's going to invent. Now Chris drew from the top left. She's sort of going to keep an eye out for that because she thinks that might be the randomizer gun, and actually it is because Chris hasn't played his starting card yet. She is going to draw one from the middle. Oh, and it's another defense card, a mirror shield, used to redirect attack against you to another player, and it cannot be bounced back. If there's no viable target, then the attack will fail. So this one's a nice defense card as well. She's actually got 2 defense cards in her hand, and she's going to play the Mutually Assured Destruction because that one is perhaps a bit more interesting. She gets to do something back. So this stays as her hand now, and we move over to Chris. So Chris still has his teleporter. That's still an option, but unfortunately it's obviously going to potentially sort of be bounced back to him. So he's got to draw a card from the matrix. He's going to draw one from here. Right. And he's lucked into the Doomsday machine. Now this is tricky. We know that the starting card we had was not the Doomsday machine. We know it was the teleporter. Oh well, the other player doesn't know that it's the teleporter, but he knows that it cannot be the Doomsday machine. If I play this card right now, then my opponent will know it comes from one of these 2 decks, because they're the only 2 decks I've drawn from. So, although I need it out to win the game, I'm actually going to play my teleporter down, because obviously in that scenario I don't want to reveal my hand too early. So, the teleporter goes out in front of us, and we can start to think, oh, that randomizer gun could get the second part of the machine out if we were very lucky. We know what's in 2 piles, so we now have a sort of 2 in 14, a 1 in 7 chance of pulling out the other half of the machine. If the other player builds the Doomsday Machine Part 2, then my teleporter should be able to steal it away, which would be quite nice. Okay, so we still have our mirror shield, and then we also have invented, and now we've picked up a cloaking device, and this is personally my favourite card in the game. So this one's slightly different. Rather than using it at the end of your turn, you use it when you're building. So we still need it in front of us to use, but this one is used at a slightly different point. The invention built is played face down and only revealed when used. So that one's really interesting. We'll build that one because we've already got 1 defense card, and that goes out in our sort of tableau in front of us, and we go back and forth. I'll just carry on, play one more round, and you can start to see how the machines will start to chain off each other. So Chris is exploring, and he's going to draw this card. This one's an interesting one. It's designed to mess up with people's heads. So the confusion beam. This allows me to swap 2 cards. So normally the 3 cards are going to be the same, but we could start to play around with that with our confusion beam and swap them over. So you might know what's in that pile, but you could be starting to confuse the issue with regards to your players. Again, we're still a bit cagey on the old Doomsday machine. We don't really want that out because we don't know. Nisha may well have an attack card in her hand that would stop that from being used. So he's going to play the confusion beam out in front of him, and he's still got his Doomsday machine. Over to Nisha. She's going to draw a card. Oh, this one's good. This is the cloning machine. So this is allowing her to build any one invention from the discard pile. Whenever a machine is used, the discard is discarded, and then you can pull something out using this machine. She's going to play a little bit of a mind game. She's going to play the mirror shield. She's going to use her cloaking device, so that goes into our discard pile, and use that to play her card face down. Now, Chris is probably going to hope that that's the Doomsday machine, so he might bite and try and go for it. So then we move over to Chris's turn. He pulls a card out, the Death Ray, so this lets us just destroy a card, and he thinks now's the time to go for it. Okay, so he's going to play his Doomsday machine. So now he has one part of the Doomsday machine out. Then he's going to use his teleporter to steal that cloak card. So he steals the card because he knows it can't be the Doomsday Machine Part 1 because that one's not gone out. She hasn't explored that deck yet, and she takes it. And she's got the Mirror Shield, which is very annoying for Chris because she's going to use her Mutually Assured Destruction and take the Randomizer gun from him. So that sort of attack, that transportation attack, happens simultaneously. So she's taken one card, he's taken one card. So he's looking quite vulnerable. He's got one part of the machine out. He can blow up a part if she builds it, but that's not looking great. Okay, Nisha's feeling quite comfortable with this one. So she's got her cloning machine in play. She decides to build an invention. Let's pull one from here. The Stochastic Computer, that's a card that lets you look at a lot more piles, so that's quite nice. And she's going to build the cloning machine. Okay, so she builds the cloning machine. She'd like to attack, she tries to attack the Doomsday machine. So oh, sorry, I'm doing this wrong. So anyway, she has her randomizer gun and her cloning machine. She uses the cloning machine to pull a card from the discard pile. We have these 3 cards in the discard pile. The teleporter is a really nice card because it lets you steal from another player. So she swaps her cloning machine for her teleporter. She uses her teleporter on the other player. Okay. And he's going to have to defend, so he discards the mirror shield to actually block that. Now normally that would mean that someone else was being attacked, but as it's a 2-player game in this instance, it goes out of the game. And then she's going to decide to use the randomizer gun to try and bring her hand up and get something more interesting out. So that goes, she picks 2 piles. So we've got the cybernetic brain and the mirror shield again. So she forgot to use their memory there. So she doesn't want the mirror shield, so she wants the cybernetic brain. That's going to let her see what other people are inventing. So that goes down to replace the randomizer gun. The mirror shield goes out, and now she's just flagged to Chris that there's no benefit in researching this card or indeed this card because neither of them are going to be part of the machine. And I think that's where we'll leave it. You can see that basically it's a sort of combo of memory and sort of bluffing and a little bit of tactical play with regards to how you're going to try and sort of fool your opponents. So I hope you found this interesting. And if you have any questions, please don't hesitate to comment.